Thanks for joining me. Today I have James O'Reilly, who is the CEO of Smokey Bones, based in, where are you based, James?
Aventura, Florida, Lisa.
Sun Capital owned brand, is that right?
Yes.
And you guys have 51 full-service restaurants right now in 16 states, is that right?
61 in total,
61 total.
operating in 16 states.
Okay. And we're talking full service, American barbecue, full bar, lunch and dinner.
Yes.
So first of all, I want to talk about, you guys are planning on reopening in 9 states by, I think it's May 2nd, is that right?
We do intend to follow as the states reopen and allow dining rooms to reopen according to the local state and local guidelines. We do intend to begin phased reopenings of our dining rooms, yes.
And first will be Georgia, which will be next week, is that right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what your plans are there and how many restaurants are we talking about in Georgia?
2 or 3 in Georgia, depending on the counties.
Oh, okay, so individual counties will make a difference. And again, Smokey Bones is company owned, right? So these are all company owned units, no franchising, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so there's been a big controversy about, when states are being allowed to open, the president going back and forth with the governors. And without getting into the politics, I'm really interested to hear how you guys are thinking about this internally and what brought you to this decision that you felt this was the right time to open there first.
Well, first and foremost, we follow the decisions of the local governors and the states individually. And then as we look at our plans to reopen the restaurants, keeping in mind our top priority is the health and well-being of our employees and our guests. And then putting programs in place that follow not only local guidelines, but also CDC guidelines to ensure that we're reconfiguring the restaurants and training and orienting our people appropriately. We support the reopening decisions made by the governors because to the extent that guests are ready to come back and enjoy dine-in experiences, even in this new world, we want to be there for them. And we also want to be a part of reopening the economy and starting to put our own people back to work.
So what are the plans in terms of bringing people back? And actually, I should ask you a little bit about during this shutdown phase, what did you guys do? Were you on limited service? Did you do just takeout delivery? And how many, were people furloughed? Were people laid off?
In all of our restaurants today that are open, we are a completely off-premise business, of course, as most are. We're offering carry-out delivery through our third-party marketplace, and also we have pop-up drive-thrus in every restaurant.
Do they have drive-through capability?
They're drive-up stations where we have reconfigured the restaurant so that the POS and tables and counters are moved outside so customers can actually drive up to the front of the restaurant and drive right through and pick up their orders.
Oh, interesting. So it's sort of modified curbside where you're at the curb.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So in Georgia then, how many people are you planning on bringing back to open? Is it going to be sort of a limited staff in the beginning?
Our approach to each of these individual situations is once the dining rooms are allowed to reopen, we intend to wait a couple of days, monitor the environment, gauge guest demand for our dining rooms, and then assume at the beginning that the demand and the traffic in the dining rooms themselves will be low. One, because they need to be low to ensure social distancing, and also I expect them to be low because at the beginning, guests will be wary and will come back slowly, not quickly. So we'll be able to flex and manage through the slow ramp up of our dining rooms with relatively modest staffing levels at the beginning.
And are you thinking you're going to start opening on Monday or Tuesday, or what day next week were you thinking? It sounds like you're going to kind of ease into it during the week.
Yeah, we intend to ease into it. We will likely give it a couple of days in every state where the dining rooms are allowed to reopen to ensure that the restaurants are ready, that our people are trained and oriented, and that we can take a day or two to gauge the demand in the marketplace. And then, so I would expect after a couple of day period in each of these situations, we'll be reopening our dining rooms according to those guidelines.
And so what are specifically the guidelines that you're going to be following in terms of protecting both the workers and your guests?
In each case, in addition to the CDC guidelines for the health and safety of our employees and for our guests, we also follow the guidelines of the local restaurant association. So in the case of Georgia, the Georgia Restaurant Association has also provided guidelines to restaurants for reopening, which we are following. And so there are employee related guidelines that have to do with wellness checks and ensuring that employees, number one, who want to come to work can come to work, and those who don't want to, of course, we're totally fine if employees don't feel comfortable coming to work, either for personal choice or because if they're not feeling well, we want them to stay home, of course. From a guest standpoint, we're reconfiguring our restaurants so that we provide adequate social distancing. We are offering and making many changes to our cleaning and sanitation procedures. We're offering single-use paper menus, single-use sanitation, wipe-down cloths, offering guests disposable silverware if they choose to have that. The list goes on and on, but we want to make sure that our guests know that when they enter the dining room that we have taken steps to ensure that we are doing everything we possibly can to not only give them a great dining experience around some great food, but also that we have their health and well-being in mind.
And what is the thinking in terms of how guests will feel, about coming out to restaurants? I mean, are you feeling that they will come rushing out? They've been, shut in their homes. They're dying to get somebody else to cook dinner. Or are you feeling they're going to be a little nervous?
Well, the data shows that dining out is one of the things that people miss the most in terms of they've been having to give up during these lockdown periods. And so we do expect that there is a demand for people dining out, but that being said, I still expect that at the beginning it will be slow, as people will still be wary coming back, and I am expecting the dining rooms to only fill up slowly, and that is even with the capacity restrictions that we will have in effect in every one of the markets, especially at the beginning.
Well, and then how are you expecting, you've been focusing on delivery and takeout. Are you thinking that you're going to continue with that service in the same way that you did before during the shutdown?
Yes, Lisa, we've learned a lot through this experience. We had already, in 2019, when we put our new team together, we had already made the strategic decision to focus on off-premise, invest in off-premise as a growth priority. And so when this crisis hit and off-premise became our only business, we leaned in on that strategy even harder. And we've learned a lot through doing that and developed some new ideas, some new approaches that we will continue not only during the reopening, but for the foreseeable future.
For example, I think there was a mention that you guys were looking at doing some virtual brands out of the existing kitchens. Is that something that you're going to be doing?
Yes, we've been doing that for almost a year now. We've had virtual restaurants running out of our existing kitchens. We launched cook-at-home meal kits, and we have strong partnerships with our third-party partners, and looking at ghost kitchens and all those kinds of off-premise opportunities. And overall, our off-premise strategy will be alive and well, even as the dining rooms themselves begin to reopen.
So when you say off-premise partners, do you mean the third-party delivery players? Are you working with them, or do you mean something like a Kitchen United or some of the ghost kitchen partners that are growing?
We have very good partnerships with the third-party delivery partners, and we've been working with them very closely, especially as the dining rooms have been shut down, and developed a lot of interesting promotions for our guests over the last 4 weeks. And we intend to continue in those partnerships, and we really believe in the third-party business, and it's an important way of delivering food to our guests. In addition to that, the virtual restaurants, ghost kitchens, and things like that are all parts of our strategy that we have maintained and continue to focus on through the shutdown.
Interesting. Which one? Can you say which you might be working with?
I can't say yet because we haven't announced the reopening, but we are close to being able to do that. And I'm excited about this part of our strategy as we look at the way restaurant brands are getting distributed. It's not just about a brick and mortar industry anymore.
Well, what's interesting about barbecue is that it travels well. I mean, it's something that can be, at least, traditional barbecue can be reheated well. And, it's something that you can package in a way that consumers at home can prepare it similar to how it'd be in the restaurant, right? I mean, is that Why?
Absolutely, absolutely. Ribs and pulled pork and baked beans and mac and cheese and all these delicious things that we sell. Our menu is fantastic. It lends itself very well to delivery and off-premise and carry-out. It's also a way to expand our brand with much less capital. And most importantly, all of this is driven by consumers and our guests. And our strategy of having Smokey Bones available anytime, anywhere, um, guides our thinking as we look at these kinds of opportunities.
So are you thinking that you would actually have virtual brands out of Smokey Bones kitchens doing something else, something other than barbecue, in addition to having the barbecue brand out of a ghost kitchen in markets perhaps that you don't have restaurants? Both?
Yes. The two virtual brands that we're operating right now feature items from our menus, but they are sub-branded to Smokey Bones. And one is called the Wing Experience. The other one's called the Burger Experience. And our wings and burgers are extremely delicious, high-quality products that guests don't always know that we sell because we're so famous for ribs and barbecue and brisket. And so in many markets, we operate in total 29 virtual restaurants. In many markets, if a guest goes on to one of the third-party apps, they might see Smokey Bones for barbecue, and they might see the Wing Experience for wings.
Oh, interesting.
And then they get to try our product that way as well.
So you're saying 29 virtual restaurants. Does that mean in 20 out of 29 restaurant kitchens, you're also doing the virtual brands? Okay. Can you comment on how much in sales you do that's off-premise compared with dine-in? And I don't know if this is like pre-shutdown compared with maybe how you expect it to change or how it's changed during the shutdown, but give us an idea of how much business you're doing.
I can't give you the actual amounts, but I can tell you that right now, obviously, it's 100% of our business, and it is nearly doubled since the shutdown has started. And we are actively promoting all of our off-premise offerings and adding new ones as well to appeal to the needs of the off-premise guest, including what we call our Bones Basics meal kits, which are cook-at-home meal kits so that guests have the convenience of ordering prepared food from us and also have a meal that they can take home and prepare on another day.
So that's going to continue with the reopenings, doing those. And then also you were doing groceries, weren't you?
Yes, we have a pantry program as a part of the Bones Basics sub-brand as well, and we offer pantry products like eggs and milk and flour and things that we can make available through our supply chain, which is very stable. And these essentials are sometimes hard to get in some local communities just because of the grocery stores and their situations. So it's a convenience for our guests, and we are happy to be offering them.
And that'll continue as you reopen. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about some of the, what state is next? So after Georgia, which will be the first and maybe kind of your test to get it all going again, then what will be next after that?
You can appreciate that it's somewhat fluid, this situation, and we are tracking it very carefully, but my understanding is the next couple of states are South Carolina and Tennessee. I'm not sure in what order, but the team is following that very closely, and we are laying our overall reopening template down on those situations, and then also incorporating feedback and guidance from local states and local restaurant associations as well.
And are you finding that what you've seen so far, at least in terms of guidelines, does it vary quite a lot among the states, or are you finding that it's fairly consistent in terms of what you as a company will be expected to do?
It's fairly consistent. One of the things that is a little different state to state that I'm seeing so far is the capacity restrictions in the dining rooms themselves.
Right.
Sometimes the number of people per 1,000 square feet, but that is easy for us to adapt to. The restaurant configurations, one by one, are flexible, and we can adapt to that very easily.
Well, let me drill you down a little bit on that, because it's really interesting to me. Typically, how big is a Smokey Bones? Square footage?
7,000 square feet.
I'm sorry, say it again?
6,000 or 7,000 square feet.
And how many tables?
We normally seat between 200 and 250 people when we're at full capacity.
So are you thinking basically you'll have to cut that in half? Is that
at least, and that will vary state by state.
Right.
We're not in a hurry to pack our dining rooms. This is a very slow and gradual process. As I mentioned We want to be a part of the reopening of the economy, and we want to be able to provide our own employees with employment opportunities as we can.
Right.
But it's also fair to say we're not in a hurry. We want to make sure that we're ready, that we have all of the procedures and policies and training in place, the restaurants and the cleanliness and the sanitation measures completely taken, so that we know that we're ready, and we're expecting and planning for this to be a gradual process.
And so what is the thinking really even further down the road? I mean, is there a point where you're projecting that you might get back to, I guess, what full employment was as of, March 15th or before the shutdown, or, however, when it started happening for your company? Is there a point where you sort of feel like you'll be back to that point, or are you thinking that won't happen? A lot of folks are talking about how we're not going back to what was. What's your thought on that?
My thought on that, it's definitely too early to tell and be able to project that, because consumers are coming back to a world that no one has ever experienced. And so I do expect the off-premise business will stay strong and stronger than it's ever been. We do expect that the dining rooms and the capacity in our dining rooms will change slowly, even though guests do want to come back and dine out. I would not be surprised if the things even permanently are never the same that they were before. And we will adapt. If that, as and when that happens, we will adapt. We know that our menu and the Smokey Bones brand are strong. We've got something to offer to the restaurant guest, both in our restaurants and in their homes, and we're ready for that, and we will adapt to that.
Okay. All right. That's a great note to end on. So I'm going to stop you there. Hang with me just 1 minute, James, but thank you so much for joining us, and I wish you the best of luck as you get back to business, and I hope everyone stays safe and that it'll go as smoothly as planned, which is the best you can hope for, I think.
Thank you, Lisa. Same to you.
So,